Hey everybody, Peter Valley here. Welcome to the third and final video in the three-part pricing strategy series. This is all leading up to the big debut of Pricing Mastery, the video course, the first course of its kind to go deep, deep, deep into the subject of getting the most money for your items on fulfillment by Amazon. So in this video, I saved the most important for last. We're going to talk about repricing, which is the most profitable aspect of selling on Amazon when you break it down to an hour by hour basis. Most people do not think about repricing in these terms, and they tend to think of it actually as just an afterthought, when in fact, it is. If you wanted to make the most amount of money you could with Amazon tonight, it would be to go through your inventory and optimize your prices. So repricing, just to be clear, we're talking about what you do with your products in terms of pricing after they arrive at the Amazon warehouse. So after you list them, how do you optimize your prices? And there's actually a lot of different aspects to this we're going to get into in this video. So I'm going to go rapid fire into all the different aspects of repricing with fulfillment by Amazon. So think of it in these terms as we go through this video. There is no greater dollar per hour activity than repricing, period. That's it. More than sourcing, more than anything else, the most amount of money is made in repricing. So let's talk about go into what is repricing. Okay, so a perfect world, which we don't live in, but a perfect world would look like this. You would list your book and set your price, right? You ship it in. All future sellers would match your price, and everyone would wait holding hands in kumbaya harmony, just patiently waiting our turn for a sale with dignity. Okay? That's not the world we live in. Unfortunately, we occupy a world of people who are not quite so dignified and will engage in all sorts of ruthless treachery to underprice you and make sure that you don't get a sale and they do, okay? So your offers are often going to get underpriced, and it will often happen within seconds of listing your inventory. That is just a fact of life. And so for those reasons, a certain amount of maintenance is required to keep your prices competitive, and that's what we're here to talk about. So think about this pricing rule as we go through this video. When you set a price, you're expecting it to sell at that price, okay? This kind of sounds like a stating the obvious, but the fact is that prices change a lot after you set that price. So this necessitates going back regularly and repricing our existing offers after they hit the warehouse. So the question then becomes, and these are the questions we're going to answer in this video: how do we reprice? How often do we reprice? And what do we reprice in terms of which parts of our inventory? So here's a couple of FAQs. Well, first of all, what and when, to answer those questions, it actually depends on the strata, specifically and most importantly, the sales rank strata. In its simplest form, we have to separate low demand items from high demand items when we are repricing. You're never going to price a book ranked 10,000 the same way or with the same frequency as a book ranked 2 million. Okay, that's just a fact. So the frequency is what we're going to talk about in this next section. Lower demand items should always get repriced more often, daily if you can, because you want to be the next sale with the poor demand stuff, the sort of the poorly ranked stuff. Higher demand items, I'm going to get into how I define these in just a second. Higher demand items get repriced less often, weekly or even monthly, because prices are so volatile. And when you get above like 10,000, you can almost literally not reprice them at all because the prices are jumping up and down so much on a daily basis. If you're talking about a book ranked 5,000, maybe it's selling 50 copies a day, the price could easily jump from $4 to $12 to $7 to $16 to $8 all within one day. And I'm just talking about FBA prices alone. So we can almost leave those alone, and then getting a little above that, we do it less often because there's still some volatility there and so on. I'll get into how all this works in a second. So how often you reprice is actually subjective. It should be a balance of the size of your inventory, how much time you have, and then just your overall strategy. So here's what I do and what I recommend. Reprice all the really poor demand stuff daily if you can, and I'll define what I think that is in a second. Reprice everything between roughly 300,000 and 1.2 million. That's how I do it. Weekly or semi-weekly. Okay, so we're not touching the stuff like daily. We don't need to, because again, enough sales are happening that we can kind of have not a hands-off approach, but we don't need to be on top of these daily because prices can fluctuate a lot. And then reprice the high demand items less often, going all the way up into the very high demand items, which we can pretty much ignore as long as they're priced this side of Amazon's price, right? Okay, so here's 3 repricing facts. When an item is not the lowest price FBA offer, it is the same as that item not being for sale at all. Now, if we want to be a little bit more accurate, it would actually be if the item is not in the buy box, we could pretty much consider it not being for sale at all. But we don't have as much control over what Amazon gives the buy box, but we have complete control over what the lowest price FBA offer is. Now, if you follow me at all for any length of time, you know I don't recommend you always just make sure yours is the lowest offer, right? You should be pricing higher than the lowest FBA offer a big chunk of the time. But this is just a fact that unless it is the lowest price FBA offer, it's the same as it not being for sale at all, right? Number two, to make the most money, you have to reprice manually. Everybody hates it when I say this, but it is factually correct that you are taking a flamethrower to your profits if you don't reprice manually. And I'm going to make a strong case for why you should do that. Not just in the things you've heard before, but actually, I'm going to I think, bring a lot of people over to my side who don't agree with me in just a second. Number three, investing the time in repricing intelligently will make you more money per hour than anything else, even sourcing. Okay, so let me kind of touch on the last point here. If you think repricing manually takes too long and you groan at the thought of it and you consider it to be completely unjust and it's just not worth it, well, think about it in these terms. What if repricing manually increased your profits by 25%? And it will, believe me, it will. You have accomplished increasing your revenue by 25% by simply sitting at a computer. Now, how much time would it take for you to increase your sources by 25%? In other words, if you decide to increase your revenue by 25% via sourcing, how much work would that involve? Well, you certainly have to get up and not be at your computer, right? So there's already more work, but it would also take way more time, like a lot more time, way more time than repricing would take. So what I can't figure out is why people are so resistant. A lot of sellers are so resistant to repricing their inventory, and they just turn it over to software that just kills their profits. So you have to reprice manually to make the most money. I advise doing most repricing manually. For most sellers, it is tedious, but it is the only option. And the formula, and I'll give you some good news here, the formula is not to go through your entire inventory manually each day, okay? For most of us, that is time prohibitive. Once your inventory hits approximately 1,000 units, repricing everything manually becomes very time prohibitive. So the answer is to create a simple tier system that governs what you reprice and how often, so you're not going through everything daily, only the most important stuff, okay? So I'm actually going to teach you now my personal formula for repricing manually. It's very simple, but if you follow these steps, this is the way to optimize it. So I'm actually keeping this extremely simple. I'm going to break it down into two tiers, the poorly ranked stuff and the not poorly ranked stuff, okay? And that's how we're going to do it. So that's the simplest way to do this formula. So let me break down exactly how it works. And if you don't follow all this right away, you don't need to keep like clicking pause and going over to your inventory to follow this step by step. You can just freeze frame this at the end. Once we get to the total end of the video, you can come back, kind of like pause this screen, and then you can go through and do it yourself. Okay, so here's what I do just really quick. You click on the inventory tab. Then you click on Manage Inventory, and you check the box for active. Okay, so you just want your active inventory items to show up, basically the stuff that's just for sale right now. Then you go to Preferences, which is a little box in the upper right. You click that, and it takes you to a page, and you check the boxes next to exactly what you see here on the right-hand side of the screen. You'll make it look just like this. Check the box next to Sales Rank, Price, Lowest Price, What's Available, Product Name, and Status, okay? There's some other useful data that you can display, but we're going to keep this really simple. So just go through and do it just like this. If I'm going too fast, just come back later at the end of this video and pause this. So the next phase is under Show Shipping Charges, which is at the bottom of this page that we're on, the Preferences page, just to remind you. You set it to display shipping charges in your inventory's price columns, exactly like you see here in the upper right. Then you set the default filter option to all fulfillment channels. Remember, this is just for the poorly ranked stuff that we're pricing now. We're doing the two tiers, so I'm going to get into how to reprice the more high demand stuff here in just one moment. So this is just for like the really poor demand stuff. Like roughly, I would say that, and I'll get to this in a second, but I would roughly put that in terms of my criteria, anything ranked worse than 1.2 million. Okay, so go through your offers, and when you don't see that green check that indicates it's the lowest price, click match price for the following. Anything ranked worse than 1.2 million, unless it's a textbook, because textbooks can get really well ranked in the textbook season and then stay, worse than 1.2 million at times in the off season, right? And any CD, so we're talking about all media now, any CD ranked worse than say 5 or 10,000, any other non-DVD media. So we're just talking about all media right now, but if you just want to focus on books, you can just keep to this rule. Anything ranked worse than 1.2 million is what I advise. Then you hit submit. And so you just go through your entire inventory looking for anything that does not have the green checkbox, okay? And then you just hit match price, and that's it. That's the formula. And you can go through and actually do this very quickly, which is why I say if you can do this, if you have the time available, do this daily, what I'm showing you right here. Reprice the portal demand stuff daily. Okay, so here's a second phase. Now we're going to get into the strat of our inventory that is ranked better than 1.2 million. So you go back to the preferences page, and the only thing you're changing here is a default filter option. You want to change that to fulfilled by Amazon. So what you're telling Amazon to do here is only compare your price against FBA offers. This is really important, and you just set it exactly like you see here on the right-hand side of the screen. So again, we're telling Amazon only to compare prices against other FBA sellers. So then we are going through and doing basically the exact same formula that I just described, and price matching the lowest FBA offer for all of the better ranked items. Now, this is actually not this simple. I do not recommend you go through and just simply price match the lowest FBA offer for anything ranked better than 1.2 million. However, for the sake of simplicity, and if you had to adopt something right now that has to be simple, you just need the simplicity, then I would recommend you do this. Now, what I personally would recommend is doing this, and again, I don't want to make this complicated for you, so I'm keeping this very simple so you could actually literally ignore everything I'm about to say if you just want to keep it simple. However, what I personally do is anything ranked roughly 600,000 to 1.2 million, I will match the lowest FBA offer. Anything better than 600,000, I'm actually clicking over to view the FBA offers, so I can price usually above the lowest one, because those items are getting enough sales volume that I don't necessarily have to be the lowest FBA seller. When I say 600,000 to 1.2 million, I'm getting really rough here. I would actually probably be even a little bit more conservative, maybe like 800,000 to 1.2 million. Most often I would match the lowest FBA offer, and then anything better than 800 to 600,000, then I would start to think about pricing above the lowest FBA offer because of the sales volume. So again, if all this sounds too complicated, just follow this simple formula that I've just broken down. Better than 1.2, worse than 1.2 million, and you'll do better than most people. So then you click on the price to go to Amazon, you check the box next to Prime to view FBA offers only if you want to compare against FBA offers and actually potentially price higher than the lowest FBA offer, because you don't necessarily want to be price matching really lowball FBA offers really ever. But anything better than 1.2 million, but you can kind of get a little bit loose with that, once you get up towards 1.2 million. So why do some sellers refuse to reprice manually? More specifically, many sellers are indignant over having to reprice their items without relying on software specifically. A lot of sellers just simply won't spend 30 minutes or an hour a day repricing. But they will go out and spend 4 to 8 hours a day sourcing. It's kind of weird, especially when you consider that repricing makes you 3 times more per hour. And I just pulled that number out of the air, but it's many times more per hour than sourcing. Again, if you just went through and repriced your stuff feverishly, you're making way more than if you were out doing putting the same effort into sourcing. So it's weird, because I think people feel entitled to have software do things for them when in fact that software actually costs them more money than it's worth. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Repricing software, here's how you actually can use it effectively, okay? So every repricer is different, and there's a lot of repricing software out there. You can just Google it. Every repricer is a little bit different, but it will all accomplish the limited uses that I'm advising, okay? And I want to be really, really upfront about this. Repricing software, the reason, and you've heard me talk about this a lot if you follow me, so I didn't want to dedicate a lot of time to sort of restating things I've already talked about before. But repricing software cannot see FBA offers if they are in the lowest 20 in terms of price. That is just a rule that Amazon has. No third-party software can actually see any more than that. When I say see, meaning like you cannot use it to compare or price against FBA offers if they're not in the lowest 20. So if you tell Repricing software to go ahead and match the lowest FBA offer across the board, you are killing your profits because you have no idea in what instances the software can even quote see the FBA offers that exist. So it's just absolutely deadly. Do not do it. Take my word for it. Even if you don't quite understand what I'm saying, please don't use repricing software for anything other than what I'm about to advise. So what I would do is I would set it to price a flat $3.99 higher than the lowest merchant fulfilled price for all books ranked worse than 1.2 million, all non-book media items except for DVDs, and that's it. Okay, the exception being textbooks. So you can encode your SKUs to denote an item as a textbook, and then tell the repricing software, hey, ignore anything that has this sort of text string in the SKU, and that can actually that's actually really important to avoid pricing textbooks this way. But $3.99 higher gets you that top spot in the listings. Anything worse than 1.2 million is probably not selling more than once every 10 days. It's a slow selling item. You probably want to just aim to be the next sale to play it safe. Okay. Set a price floor so it doesn't drop below a certain amount in your repricing software, and then you can set it to reprice either hourly or daily, whatever you choose. And the repricing software will go through your inventory and price according to what you tell it to do. So just to put a bow on this, what you're telling this repricing software to do, and the only thing I recommend you tell repricing software to do, is to reprice your poorly ranked items, again worse than 1.2, maybe 1.5 million, and price a flat $3.99 higher. Okay. Don't tell repricing software to do anything else because it can't. It just simply can't. It doesn't matter if you didn't know this. It doesn't matter if you don't believe me. It's an absolute fact that repricing software simply cannot do what it should do to make you the most money outside of what I'm describing here on this slide. Okay. But repricing is not just for dropping prices. And we'll just go back to manually now. Often your inventory will go up in value, so you should be looking for opportunities to raise your prices as well. That's really, really key. So I'm going to give you a bonus trick really quick. So a lot of you are aware that Amazon has an automated repricer. I'm going to give you a little trick that I came up with to actually make Amazon's repricer work for you. Now, I won't give it the whole spiel, but the basic reason I don't advise that you use Amazon's repricer is it's too limiting in too many ways. It will just cost you more money than it will make you. However, there is one trick I'm going to advise to make it actually work, and to make it work in exactly the way we just described here on this page. So you can actually trick it into pricing a flat $3.99 higher for all of your poor demand items, your poorly ranked items, ranked worse than whatever you decide. For me, it's 1.2 million. You might be 1 million. Some people might be 1.5 or 1.7 million, whatever you decide, right? You can actually trick Amazon's repricing software into doing exactly that. So here's how it works. So Amazon does have a free repricer, as I said, but it does not have sales rank as a pricing criteria, which is totally wacky. Don't ask me why. That's just how it is. But here's a trick to get it to work for you. Set aside, when you're listing, every single book that has an average rank of, roughly 1.2 to 1.5 million or worse. Set those books aside. Do not list them with everything else. List them separately, okay? Then enter a special SKU for this group. Again, anything ranked worse than 1.2 million. Now, it's very easy to do this. If you're listing directly through Amazon, you can do this. If you're using repricing software, there will be an option to manually choose what SKU you want and type in what sort of text is at the beginning of each SKU. If you're using repricing software, listing software, it's really easy. Just go figure it out, and you'll see it should be very obvious how to make this work. So you want to enter, let's just say, bad rank. Literally, you could just type in bad rank so that every single time you list a book for in this group, it'll have the text bad rank in front of it, okay? It's just an example. Add these SKUs to the pricing group in Amazon's Repricer. So then you go through an Amazon's Repricer, and you just add anything that has that text string bad rank into a rule group, so that you're basically tricking Amazon's Repricer into only looking at your poor demand items. And it's a really cool trick. It can work if you absolutely don't want to pay for repricing software. You can trick Amazon's free pricing software into doing this for you. Okay, so it's a cool little trick, and it's something, again, I would recommend once you get to a certain level of your revenue to actually switch over to repricing software for your poor demand items, because this is a little more time consuming, what I'm describing here, because you have to set aside books and then manually enter your SKUs, and then actually manually enter all these books into a pricing group within Amazon's Repricer. And if you don't know how Amazon's Repricer works, don't worry about this. It'll be apparent to you when you log in and check it out for yourself. But that is a cool trick. So we covered a lot of ground, you guys, a ton of ground. I just taught you when you should use repricing software, when you shouldn't. We talked about a quick, or the simplest way to sort of manually reprice, why you have to manually reprice. I talked about how profitable repricing is. All this stuff is really valuable. It'll make you a ton of money. It's really, really key that you understand this stuff. So I did go into almost everything in my new course coming out. It's called Pricing Mastery, and I have tons and tons and tons of videos on pricing strategy, as well as more on repricing. I go into live demonstrations on how to reprice. So that step-by-step system I just taught you, I actually show you how to do it in real time in a video. I go into my Amazon inventory and show you how it's done. I offer steps for hiring, actually outsourcing your repricing to a virtual assistant. I hired somebody in the Philippines who does my repricing, and it's just done wonders for my business. I teach you the formula for that and a bunch of other stuff. I mean, just so much. It's weird. Actually, I've been hyping this up as having 12 modules. I actually just added a few more bonus modules in the last day to the course. So now we're up to, I think, 15. I might add some more tomorrow at the last minute. I just keep thinking of stuff I want to teach you guys at the last minute and adding it. So anyway, the point is, Pricing Mastery is epic. It's a video course. You just log in, get instant access. It goes live tomorrow. And I just want this takeaway before we get into a couple more things that I haven't talked about yet that are going to be some bonuses for you that you probably want to know about. I just want you the takeaway to be, pricing is the highest yield dollar per hour aspect of selling on Amazon, period. Okay, this stuff is so key. I know I went really fast through this stuff, but it's all really important to take in. If you want to go deeper, Pricing Mastery goes live tomorrow. It's the debut. It's a first of its kind course. Again, it says 12 modules here. It's actually up to 15. I keep adding stuff. I'll probably be up all night as of when I record this, adding more material because I keep thinking of stuff I want to teach you guys. You can go to pricingmastery.com and bookmark that, and it goes live tomorrow morning. So, have you heard me talk about this yet? If you missed the last video or the last couple of videos, you don't know what's in it for you if you order in the first 5 days. So if you order in the first 5 days, you guys know when I release something new, I like to incentivize people to take quick action. So part of that with this course is going to be giving you this free bonus 50-page ebook called Book Sourcing Science, and it covers exactly what to look for in every major book category. It's basically a complete guide on what to look for when you're out book sourcing, how to spot value in every major book category, why your scanning app is not going to save you if you don't know what to look for. You can't rely blindly on your app. It doesn't work. Exactly how to hone in on the 1% of books that are worth money and actually avoid all the other stuff that won't make you money before you ever scan it. The secrets to increasing efficiency while sourcing, getting in and out while your competition is just getting started. I just go crazy with teaching you exactly what I've learned over the last 7-8 years of book selling. And what do you want to bet? I've got something else for you. If you order in the first 5 days, not only do you get Book Sourcing Science and Pricing Mastery, you get a book called Textbook Annihilation, which is another bonus ebook that covers everything there is to know about profiting from textbooks. This is a transcript of a webinar that I gave exactly 2 times where I went deep into the subject of sourcing, pricing, and just making tons of money off of textbooks. I talk about the myth of textbook season, what textbook buyers care about so you can cater to them, what they don't care about, do older editions of textbooks sell, condition in textbooks, what I call textbooks in disguise, and how to spot textbooks that aren't really textbooks, where Amazon sellers lose the most amount of money with textbooks, how to describe your textbooks, peak days of textbook season, my personal textbook pricing formula, the single biggest source of textbooks anywhere, and just like, God, I'm out of breath. So much more on the subject of textbooks. I'm giving you so much value, you guys, for the people that order Pricing Mastery in the first 5 days. I'm giving you Massive, massive value here. So I really hope you guys jump on this. I cannot see how this will not pay for itself many, many, many times over if you take me up on this offer. So again, it goes live tomorrow. 1 video course, 2 limited ebooks, 5 days only. It's going down, you guys. This is big. I don't do stuff like this very often. Basically, about once a year do I release something very, very big for you guys. And tomorrow is the day. So I will see you over there.